Welcome to another episode of the Sligo Show with myself, Brendan Tierney. Full action-packed show coming up tonight. As always, we have your news, sport and entertainment. Our local focus is with a local photographer from Tubbercurry, Richard McCarthy. So he'll be giving you loads of tips for your upcoming wedding, if that's what your thing is, or you can get your portrait photography done or your business photography done with him. He told me to make sure we mention all those. First up, a man, where do I start describing them? I suppose we mostly know him for his piano playing and his shows, and we also, I feel more famously known, or secondly most famously known for footballing, I'd say. That's where I first came across you and many people around the country. But since then, podcasting, composer, it's endless, multiple live shows, etc. Kieran Quinn, it is a pleasure to have you on the sofa, or the chair as I say. How are you doing?
I'm great, Brendan. Yeah,
you're all good?
It's great to be here with you. I'm looking forward to the chat.
There you go, and you didn't leave your phone on now like previous guests.
My phone, would you believe, is in the car.
Oh, real safe, real safe.
Yeah.
Well, look, I mean, I mentioned there, you've been involved in so many projects of all different kinds. Like, you've definitely lived a life less ordinary so far. But is there some job or project that you haven't really sunk your teeth into, that you are thinking of, that might be 5 years down the line or 10 years? Like, is there anything there that we don't know you're planning?
Oh, look, I don't know about that far, but I tell you, I was walking through town the other day and just down by Ulster. I was in town early on Sunday morning with my son. We went for breakfast in Ulster. And there's this sort of rocky, almost like a little pier that comes out from Ulster into the middle of the river. And there's this sort of square platform in the middle of the river. And a baby grand piano would fit just beautifully on that platform. A friend of mine, a fellow who's involved in the team nights for years, Emmanuel McCormick, made this suggestion to me years ago, and I was only in town the other day and I saw it. And I said to Tom, my young fella, I said, what do you think? Put a piano out there, wire it up, you know, the wires could go all the way back.
Wires and a water, anyways, keep going.
No, but you've got the pier, the little pier to go back. The one thing would be you'd have to close off the bridge and put a crane on the bridge and hoist the piano down from the crane onto the platform. It could be amazing visually.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So that's the crazy project that you're thinking of.
That's the crazy project.
So floating on water playing the piano. If you got the tide just right, wouldn't it look spectacular?
Something like that, Brendan, yeah.
Okay, so you heard it here first. That's his next big project.
Yeah.
And like, what gives you the biggest buzz? I suppose what gave you, what was it, your sporting days? Was it your live performance? You know, what is it you find give you the biggest highs?
Well, I suppose, look, I'm very lucky because many sportsmen retire and find it hard because they can't find the buzz that they had during their sporting career.
Nuke in their life,
Exactly. So thankfully I sort of transitioned pretty much straight into music and realised fairly quickly, geez, there's a great buzz to be got off this too.
Oh, good, okay.
Do you know? So, look, Brendan, I've been lucky, as I say, that way. Last weekend, for example, we were in the Model. We had 2 teenage team nights on Friday and Saturday. It was our first ones back there for almost 2 years. There was one girl sang, and her father wasn't meant to see the show, but he eventually got there. And I won't mention any names, but I went out into the foyer afterwards just to say hello to the parents, say hello to the teenagers, see how everyone got on. This man didn't say a word to me. He came up to me, he clenched his fists, and he had just this look in his eyes that just said, I'm so proud and I'm so happy my daughter got to do this. Yeah. And it was just that moment, I just thought, this is amazing that people are having this reaction
to what you're helping produce.
Exactly. That people are having this reaction, and just, you know, it was amazing to see the teenagers back up on stage and the buzz they got off, and the buzz we got off it too.
Yeah,
you know?
Well, I'm sure just to see it on it, but like, that is funny that you say, like, it wasn't necessarily you being centre stage at all, but yet you got more of a kick
off
out
this
of that.
fella's reaction. I just thought it was amazing.
It is lovely, like, and I think you were to be hugely commended. I'm not just kissing your arse because you're here, like, but I see the team nights from afar, and I've seen some of the videos with Freya and Senna. I've seen that video; they were magic. I just love that energy. I think there's a huge void of an outlet for young musicians to just try it, even if they don't want to necessarily become professional. But you're giving so many people just a taster. They might do it once and then go away and come back. So I think fair play, because I know it takes a lot of work to put them all on, but it's a huge outlet, and as I said, like, there should be some kind of a scheme set up, and whether it's you or someone else or a collective goes, we'll put these on all the time and help them, but you're doing it on your own. So as I said, I can see the buzz and why you get that buzz. Like, it's lovely.
You do,
Brendan, give them the opportunity rather than just sitting in the audience, you know. So fair play.
Yeah, thank you.
And with all your sporting and piano escapades, like, just to go back a few years, which came first? I know you said football was the main thing, but was it when you were young you were always doing piano and sport, or?
Yeah, I would have done both growing up. You know, all sports. I was probably more into soccer than Gaelic for a long time. But I suppose college came and football sort of began to get serious maybe at the age of 20, 21. Whereas music didn't start to get serious till maybe 26, 27.
Really?
Yeah.
But had you been learning it obviously growing up?
I learned it growing up, and then I stopped it. I gave it up at the age of 12, Brendan. I hated it.
Now, the old question, did you hate it because it was the tests and the grades and the classic? I don't mean there's anything wrong with class, but I know lots of kids. I want to learn songs I know. So was it a bit like that for you as well?
That was exactly it, yeah. And look, as you say, the grades are great in certain ways and teach you really valuable skills as a musician, but they weren't the skills I wanted to know.
At that age?
No, I wanted to be able to figure stuff out myself, play the songs I was into. And so I remember at the age of about 16, I was in Irish class daydreaming. And
who wasn't?
Yeah, who wasn't? Yeah, but the bass line of U2's "With or Without You" is going round and around my head. Do 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 do. 4 notes over and over in that bass line, and I was here in my head, at the age 16, trying to figure out what those notes were, and eventually thought I might have a handle on this. Ran up to the piano after Irish class and tried it. And you talk about a buzz earlier on, Brendan. The buzz when I sat down and realised that the 4 notes I'd been working out in my head were the actual 4 notes on the piano. That was a real game changer for me.
Yeah, because you got this confidence and trust in going, if I just keep doing this, I can learn an awful lot by myself and have a great ear for it. Like, so the natural ear is a great thing to have, obviously, in music. So
exactly.
I can imagine the buzz going, yes, I have that little gift. Like, you know?
And that's the thing. It is a gift, but it can also be learned.
No, I know what you mean.
And so that's the way I teach piano now, Brendan. Because that's what worked for me. So I teach people to play by ear, and there's kids like Finian's age or Tom's age who are way younger than I was at 16 who could do that no problem.
Wow. So do you teach them what the notes are, and then now can you figure that out yourself?
Yeah, or just say, right, Jingle Bells starts on B.
Yeah.
See how much of the rest of it you can work out.
Okay.
And off they go. And you'd be surprised about how many that can do it. It just wasn't a thing to learn the piano that way for such a long time.
Yeah, true. It's like I did it myself years ago as well. And I know the feeling, and I do see it happening a lot. But again, I think a lot of modern piano teachers do it. Is that what you would do as well with some modern young kids? What you want to learn first? Yeah. And that's the way they get hooked from there.
Yeah.
You mentioned there, like, obviously that you stopped piano, and that was my next question. Was there ever a time where one tore you away from the others? Obviously, I don't think piano ever tore you from sport, obviously, but that was later in life. But you just said there you did stop. And was it the good old college girls in sport, or what was it?
Oh no, it was way younger. I was 12, Brendan, and I just rebelled against it.
You still do? Okay, you just said didn't want to do
it. No college girls for me at the age of 12 now. But I just didn't like the way I was being taught. Rebelled against the piano, and luckily, actually, my parents said, "Do you know, Kieran, that's okay. We don't mind. Give it up if you want to give it up. You give it up." And they had the foresight to think, if we force him to do it, he could be off it for life.
Yeah,
whereas
very true.
at least if he does this, he might get back to it.
You had a baseline and you had a little taste, like.
Yeah, exactly.
And then we're crossing over, as you said, into your sport. So college, was it like Sigerson, or did you play all that level of Gaelic, was it? And then when did you start coming into county teams as such?
It all happened very fast, Brendan. I played Sigerson football with Trinity in probably the year 2000, at the age of 20. And within 6 months, I was playing under 21 football and then senior football with Sligo.
Did you ever play minor at all? So
never played minor.
So just bang, straight in?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You don't ever do things by half. That was like, something, I'll try that. I mean.
Well, look, I think I was tall and I could run, and they probably needed someone like that. And, I learned, I wouldn't have played much football in my teens at all. And so, was probably lacking a bit skill-wise, but worked hard at that over the years. And as I say, maybe my height and my engine got me through a good few games in those early days.
Well, I watched, as a Galway man, I watched you many times, especially, and the next thing is 2007. I mean, I was living in Sligo and I was like delighted to see you win, but the sportsman in you going, oh, you always want your home county to win, but like, what a fantastic day. And that was my next question actually, was what was your greatest sporting moment? Was it that day, or was there some little smaller incident underage or something, or where was it?
I was only thinking, Brendan, you were kind enough to send me some of these questions beforehand, so I could maybe think about it a bit. And so this is a hard question because the 2007 final certainly was so special. On a macro level for the whole county of Sligo, and to be part of that, because it's only the third one we ever won in our history, and still is. We've only ever won 3 Connacht titles.
It's mad.
It's mad. Obviously winning my club we won a club county championship in 2005, which was the first one our club, Kildare Strandhill, won in 98 years.
98? I didn't even know it was that
which was massive as well. You know, those were two huge wins. I was only thinking today though about, it's almost 20 years ago, and it was the summer of 2002, and we played an All-Ireland quarter-final in Croke Park against Armagh.
Armagh, I think it was up to that day. Did Galway play the same day?
Yes, Galway possibly before us, yeah.
That's right.
And Armagh went on to win the All-Ireland that year, so they were a proper team, you know. But we were about 6 points down with 15 minutes to go, a man down, and we chipped away at their lead. Didn't score any goals, but just point after point after point. Yeah. And the crowd, like those roars from the crowd in Croke Park, because Galway were supporting us, and everyone, bar the Armagh crowd, were all supporting us and loving what we were doing. And I'll never forget just the feeling of you were on this wave of noise, and you couldn't but jump higher for the next ball,
lifted,
you know, or kick the next one, you know, more accurately or whatever it was. And just the feeling of that noise and the feeling of, we have them here. They're on the rocks here.
You could smell it like
you really could, you know. And then just the final whistle came, and we just didn't have the time to get that last point, which could have won us the game. And we ended up drawing it and losing the replay. But you know, we were close that year. We were close.
And I know you look back now, and I suppose it's not at all. You can look at things like, oh, regret, we could have this, could have that. You could go, all those magic moments we got to experience must be special. Like, I mean, people say about Mayo, it's like, well, they've had loads of great days out too. I know they've had some losses, but how many quarterfinals, semi-finals, epic memories, like. So I presume it's the same for you. I know some of them is disappointment, but it must be magic to have this memory.
Look, as a Sligo footballer, to have won a Connacht championship, to have played in Croke Park, I think I played there 6 times, Brendan.
Wow.
You know, which is great memories.
It must be the greatest buzz ever. As a GA person, it must be like just unbelievable.
It is. And you know, I was lucky. We were part of a really good team, and you know, lads can play for Sligo for 15 years and not get to experience any of that.
Yeah, no.
Do you know? So look,
you compacted in all.
I was lucky for sure.
So with your team nights, you obviously have a huge management job there. Like, would you ever think of becoming a GA manager, or have you done it that I don't know of in some underage level maybe?
I you know, my children both play, and I helped out a bit last year with Tom at the under-7s in Kildare, and you know, it's not quite management at that age.
No, caring.
You know, there are different skills that you need. But I guess part of me would love to, Brendan. You know, part of me would love to. You know, I can see that certain strengths I would have would work. I'd need to learn other bits and pieces. You know, I have no experience in coaching or training or, you know, what drills to do, any of that sort of stuff. But you know, the interest of managing people and trying to get the best out of people, I'm sure some of the stuff that I do in music would translate across to the GA. You know,
I think it's a huge man management job now, and there's loads of coaches that do the drills, like as you said exactly. So I definitely think from watching from afar, I think you've.
Well, I'll start at under-7s and under-8s, and I'll learn my trade. I'll learn my trade, and maybe in a few years I might be ready for something else.
So, last sports question: who was the best player you played against and with, and who was the most underrated player you played with?
Best player I played against, like the best midfielders back in those days were Darragh O'Shea, Kieran Whelan, Paul McGrain from Armagh, Nicholas Murphy from Cork. You know, I would have played against all them bar O'Shea. Like, they were. Nicholas Murphy cleaned me out one day in Croke Park. You know, I'll never forget that. He's just a giant of a man, and he could jump and he could play. And there was just no way it was just very hard to win any sort of ball off him. I'll never forget that day. It was just a real lesson. Do you know,
in that day, because it's an art.
Oh, it is.
I read Kevin Walsh's book, and even the simple things of stepping 1 foot to the right, stopping that guy's run. Like, so I say you will cut your teeth along the way.
Yeah, that's the thing. Guys. Like, you know, you would have been used to playing against certain midfielders or midfielders of a certain level, and you might have fancied yourself against some of them. But then, you know, you only got to play against these guys very rarely. And so whatever lessons you learnt, and I learnt plenty that day on Murphy in Croke Park, but I never got the chance to go up against him again.
Okay.
Do you know,
give him to match it back. So if you're watching, he wants to play in junior football somewhere like that.
So certainly I remember that day. He was a brilliant midfielder. Do you know, underrated teammate? I always think, going back to 2002, Brendan, and that was a really, really good Sligo team. I always thought John McPartland, and I'm biased, he's a Kildare man, a friend of mine, but he had an amazing year that year, and John deserved. You know, I think we only got one All-Star nomination that year, despite our efforts, and that was Eamon O'Hara, and he deservedly won it. But there was 2 or 3 other lads, including John, who deserved at least a nomination. John ran Kieran McGeeney. He took him over and back the length of Croke Park, and he just was a very smart footballer and had a brilliant year that year. And I'd have a lot of time for John as a person and a footballer. And
then you're like the best teammate you played alongside. Is it the obvious O'Hara, or is there? I suppose there's always hidden gems that not everyone sees.
Look, there was loads. O'Hara was special, and he was a leader, and he certainly, his personality was all over that Sligo team. But Desi Slime, Paul Taylor, they were top class forwards.
Yeah, amazing forwards, and so reliable in the free taking.
Yeah, brilliant forwards. The likes of Charlie Harrison, Ross Donovan as cornerbacks that year in 2007, they were at the top. They were among the top cornerbacks in the country. Look, I could go on, but as I say, I was lucky to play with lots of great footballers over the years.
But then, as you said, you finished up, like, obviously the world of team nights and playing inter-county football were never going to work, especially with the risk of fingers being broken. So, like, was there a reason you stopped at county level and at club level? Were you just sick of it, or did you just feel I can't give any more? Or was the music starting to really come to the fore at that point?
Yeah, it was probably more the music, Brendan. I gave up county football at 28. Which is young enough.
Yeah.
I remember, and talk about an ignominious ending. I remember being taken off at half time in McHale Park against Mayo. We were like 9 or 10 points down at half time. It was one of these days, and I remember walking across the subs bench after being taken off and just thinking, this is probably it. It's not the best way to finish, but I think I'm finished. I remember feeling at that moment. I gave up club football at 31, which again, there was probably a few more years left in me. But I remember that year, one of my final years at club football, and I was out before we had a county semi-final, and I was out a couple of days before, just practicing my fielding with a goalkeeper and with one of the lads forwards. So the keeper would kick the balls out, I'd go up, field it, kick it into, practice my passing into the forward, and he'd have a shot in the keeper, and we were just doing this over and over again. Went up for a ball, and it came down, as you know, on your finger. That feeling. That feeling. So sore. And I just knew. I heard a little crack, and I knew something was up. So we're in the house afterwards, and I was saying, like, this wasn't even training; it was extra training, and such a time for it to happen. Yeah. So the lads called up a couple hours later with a cigar case, right? And they said, right, what if you put the cigar case over the finger?
Oh my God!
And then put the bandage over the cigar case. Would you play? It'll keep the finger straight. It means you won't do any long-term damage. And I just laughed and said, lads, I appreciate your efforts, but I just got to look after it.
Oh my God, that is the best splint I've ever heard of.
Yeah, I can never forget the boys arriving up with a cigar
Surely
case.
there was more medical devices around.
Yeah. Oh, this was the job.
Oh, but you're speaking about your fingers, obviously they're a huge asset. Do you have them insured? Would you insure them? They're obviously
actually, around then I did look into it.
Okay.
Around it, because I would have loved to have kept playing football, and I thought, if I can make it work, I will, but it just didn't work financially.
So you can, but it just
you can insure
they'll give you a huge fee on it. And
it would have cost a lot.
I asked that question a half of a joke, but it would be sensible, you'd imagine.
I did look into it. Now it's not, the risk of the likelihood of breaking a finger now is very small since I don't play football anymore.
Yeah.
So no, not now, but certainly I did look into it. Yeah.
There you go now. Yeah. And like, say if something happens to you the day of the show, or the day before, what happens then? Do you just go, I'll just be the intro man on the mic, I can't play my finger? Or do you have someone that will go in?
Yeah, like I remember back in 2007, we were, again, I got a bad finger injury one night at training, and I had a gig that Tuesday night in the Strand. And I headed out, and I played with my left hand. I had the right hand in a sling.
One-handed?
And I played one-handed.
Of course you did.
Yeah, well, I had a few lads with me, so it wasn't just me.
It
was just me now trying to play piano one-handed. That's a disaster.
Okay.
But at least I had a few lads with me, and I could sort of cover. But I had the right hand in the sling and was belting away with the left.
So if it happened to you tomorrow, it's like Niamh Crowley, she'd probably play Anthony anyways in a heartbeat, so you wouldn't have to stress too much.
Niamh, and there's plenty of others around who could sit in at short notice.
Yeah, no doubt, especially on Sligo.
Yeah, for sure.
So how many team nights have you produced now at this point?
27 adult and 24 teenage as of last weekend. So it's 51 altogether, Brendan. Yeah.
That's mad.
Yeah.
How long, what's the timeline? Let's say you have a show in the 15th of December, is it the 14th? So how early do you decide that team night? What's the time span and what's the workload involved? Do you know what I mean? Do you have a core team, etc.? Who picks the songs, all that kind of thing?
Yeah, so you'd probably usually pick the theme maybe 3-4 months out.
Okay.
And yeah, the set list is the first thing that comes together, and your performers, who's going to sing what order are the songs going to be, what are the big numbers, what's the choir going to be in, what's the horn section going to be in, how's the flow of the show going to go. You know, you got to start big, you got to finish big, but you got to have a few peaks in between as well. So you're thinking about all that, trying to get the shape of the show. Then you're thinking, who hasn't done one for a while? Who haven't I asked for a while? Who would suit this theme? You know, what singers are going to do a good job on this particular genre of music? All those questions, and then once you've your set finalised, then you start going to arrange stuff, you know, and you start figuring out, you know, do we need strings on this, or are we gonna change this arrangement up? And you'd be consulting with the singers who might have some thoughts on this sort of stuff as well.
Do you have a core team that you kind of rely on, or do you just pick it yourself and then people feed in afterwards? You know what I mean? Do you have a little team you meet? Or do you have your own selectors?
No, I do. There's so many people I would bounce things off. You know, obviously the core band have been with me for years. Yeah. Eddie Lee, Dave Flynn, Ken McDonald, Steve Coleman. You know, those guys. You know, I can throw stuff at them half an hour before the show and they'll have it off.
I would well believe. Yeah.
You know, it's great to have that. And then the likes of Niamh Crowley, we mentioned already. You know, in terms of arranging for the strings or the horns, or just a great head to have around in terms of planning a set. Marie O'Byrne in the Hawkswell from the production side of things. You know, Luke Devaney is a great head to have around. He's great opinions on what's possible technically. So look, there's loads of people, thankfully, who I've built up a good working relationship with over the years, and you know, you do rely on them.
But it is a superstar team, like, you know, I know you played Vicar Street before, and I was telling people in Dublin, go see this. Like, this isn't just a bunch of messers from Sligo. These are elite musicians, and Sligo's awash with this high level of musician. Like, so your nights are amazing to go see, whether it's the car park, whether it's the Hawkswell, or whatever. Like, you know, so anyone that hasn't been, highly recommend going. Like, so as you said, you're very lucky to have all these people near you. Like, and they're not just great musicians; they're really good heads.
Good
you know
heads.
What I mean, for thinking of different things.
Yeah, exactly.
So I know your wife Sinead has joined you on the nights as well. Any kind of future young Quinns coming up in the music world or veering that way?
Look, you know, Nixie's 10, Tom is 7, so they're both learning. Nixie learns both learn piano. Nixie learns a bit of violin, has learned a bit of trumpet in the past, and loves her music. You know, has grown up with it, so you really see that. You know, it's in her. It's definitely in her, and look, it's up to her. She can do whatever she wants with music. To be honest, she's talented, and she's, you know, it's in her. So after that, it's up to her.
See where it goes. Like, what has been your favourite team night? You know, like, and who has been your favourite team night? You know, like a one-off performance, someone who isn't a standard regular musician, let's call it, or singer, that has played or performed. What's your two favourites?
The team night, Brendan. You know, I'm not a huge Elvis fan. Like, I like Elvis no more than the next person, but I would like other bands or singers more. But we did Elvis for theme night. I think it was theme night 19.
Okay, I bet you're right on that number as well.
Maybe 3. I'd say 4 years ago. Maybe December 17. And I don't know, I'd had a busy year at that year, and I remember it came to the end of the year and it was like, will I put this on or not? It was a question, you know. I felt I was tired, and I wasn't sure whether I wanted to do this, whether I needed another thing before Christmas, you know. Eventually we decided to do it, and there was something about, it was Christmas time, and the music is not that difficult.
Okay.
The songs of Elvis, there might be 3, 4, 5 chords. It was the first time we had a horn section with us. It was the time Shamie O'Dowd came out at the start of the show, and with no instrument, bar harmonica, and danced, sang Hound Dog, and danced for the audience.
My God.
You know, it was the time Sinead Conway sang American Trilogy. And there was just so many things about that show that worked. And just, for me, having had that year, which was really busy, and I was feeling the effects of it, I just felt like putting on that theme night was like coming home. It was like meeting all these people who you're so comfortable with, in the Hawkswell with an audience who you're so comfortable with. And I was so glad I put them on. And the feeling after that theme night really gave me the impetus to go on and plan Vicar Street, which had just happened about almost just over a year later.
Right, okay.
Because I've been thinking about that for years, never got around to it, but the feeling after that team night was so strong that I thought, right, we're going to go for this. And so, look, that team night will always stand out to me for those reasons.
Okay, probably the hard work before, the headaches you had before maybe made it, as you said, that bit more special.
Yeah.
And who was the one-off performance As I said, maybe some of this isn't as obvious as others. Was there one, maybe a young person, maybe a teenage night, was there one person that just hit you when you seen them?
That's a hard one, Brendan.
And I'm not saying to pick a favourite, but like just one that comes to mind now.
One did come to mind just there as you were answering the question. And this man is an amazing singer, one of Sligo's most famous singers, but hasn't done many theme nights over the years for one reason or another. But we did Stadium Anthems, was Team Night 16 in the car park. It was the first car park gig we did. And this man, Barry Brennan, decided to do Heroes by David Bowie. Oh. And Barry has a unique way of getting the feeling and the emotion of a song across. And he's a unique charisma and a unique presence. And that night, which for me, the first time playing in front of a massive, big, 3,000-4,000 outdoor crowd, it was a nerve-wracking night. But for those few minutes when Barry was singing this song, I believed, the crowd believed, the band believed, we all believed that we could be heroes.
Okay.
That's the song he sang, and just however he sang it, I just went with him out for the ride, and it was just an amazing feeling. Yeah,
he is a unique performer, isn't he?
He really is.
Physical.
He really is. And look, there's loads of others, and there's loads of young people, especially. But just look, I had to pick one.
Of course, I backed you to a corner.
That's the one that immediately came to mind. Yeah.
And I'm sure people can watch that back. I know you put up nearly every song, so they're all online.
It's on YouTube, yeah.
And with regards gigs, you've played everything now at this stage. But do you still go, oh God, I love just sitting down beside the fire in Hargadon's or in Connolly's, or do you like going, no, give me the big stage in the car park? What's your kind of favourite gig?
You mentioned it, Brendan. If I had to pick again, it's a theme night in the Hawkswell. That is special, but there's also something special about sitting down on a Monday night, pre-COVID and hopefully post-COVID, in Connolly's with Shamey.
There's no big effort or planning, or just go in.
And you just go in, and it's like going to the gym for 2 hours for your fingers and for your ear. Shane will throw stuff at you, I'll throw stuff at him, and we just go for it. Yeah. And you really don't know what's going to happen. You don't know, it might be another musician with us as well, and that might influence the shape of the gig. But for those 2 hours, you're just there, and you just have to respond to whatever is thrown at you. Yeah. And for your fingers, as I say, for your musical ear, there's nothing beats it. And the feeling of, often pub gigs, you have people in, but they're not there for the music. They're there for the chat, and the music's just there in the background. Yeah. I'm sure you've experienced that yourself. Yeah. But there's something about that Monday night in Connolly's which was special. People came in, and there would be lads down the far side of the pub, they'd be chatting. But anyone who was up our end was there to listen, and there was a lovely, respectful silence, and there was something special about that gig. And I really hope things allow us to do that again, maybe sometime in 2022. It is a great gig.
Yeah. So your new album is out to the public on Friday. People that sign up to your newsletter get it early, was that it? Or people that funded it, was it?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
So you can sneak it in if you were one of those lucky people, and I've had a listen, and it is amazing. But you use Kickstarter to fund it, and do you feel trying to produce an album nowadays and selling it without that pre-backing? Because you don't have a record deal with whoever. Do you think that's the future of kind of, let's say, more local bands? You know what I mean? And musicians, is it nearly impossible now to just risk going all in? Do you know what I mean? Or would the album have come about if you tried to do it yourself? Would you have risked it?
Well, not an album like that, Brendan.
Yeah.
It was that's the first time I've used Kickstarter or anything like it. Do you know? And that's my 5th album. Do you know? So all the 4 albums before, I would have funded myself and relied on whatever sales you make to fund it. And to be honest, you'd be lucky to break even on any of them. Yeah. This time it was a bigger project. There's 55 musicians on this album, Brendan. Wow. And I wanted to pay people for their time. Yeah. Do you know? We got it professionally recorded. A lot of hours went into it, and I didn't want to be asking people to do this for nothing, especially in COVID times when there's no work anyway. So I really wanted to pay people for their time, the professionals who put in their time. And I knew that if I was relying, in a COVID world where gigs are uncertain, if I was relying on sales of this album to fund that was just too big a risk to take. When it was this size of a project, and the numbers, the figures involved were just way bigger than they would have been for a smaller album that I would have done myself in the past. So no, I wouldn't have undertaken this project without some sort of financial security beforehand, do you know? And so thankfully the people of Sligo came through big style and funded it, and all these musicians got paid work out of the project in the middle of COVID times.
Yeah, you're the vehicle to get this money into these musicians' pockets. So again, more than the teenage ones, you're to be very much commended on that. I'm sure there's a lot of musicians and people in the recording studio and everything that are like delighted. God, thank God this came along because we mightn't have had anything. So fair play to you. So for anyone that doesn't know the album, how would you describe it to a stranger, or what's on it, or
Okay, so it's called How Can I Keep From Singing, which is also one of the tracks on the album. It's the choir track with soloist Kathy Jordan, a beautiful, beautiful track. It came out really nicely. It's basically some of the highlights from the theme nights from the last 10 years.
Oh, okay.
We're celebrating 10 years of theme nights this Christmas, Brendan, and so I wanted to mark it with an album. So it basally was like, dipping into a sweet jar for me and saying, which sweet am I going to have? Because, there's so many great performances. But just picked a nice selection that I thought would work. It's largely new arrangements we would have done of these songs over the years. None of them are new original songs, that's the nature of theme nights. But, I'd say 3/4 of them are new arrangements. Arrangements we've put together over the years of these songs. And it features, there's just one great performer after the next on it. I could mention names, but there's too many.
I had a listen. I love a bit of an upbeat song. Like Jesse James is brilliant. It's really like Bruce Springsteen, Seeger Sessions kind of vibe. It's class. There's a lovely classical instrumental kind of piece.
Yes,
you know what I mean? There's a kind of a trad piece. There's a real mix. And you've done an arrangement of Boys of Summer.
Yes.
Which just, if someone said, if Adele did that, the world would be raving about it.
Right.
But I don't know who the singer was, because not all the names were on the little thing I was watching. But so whoever that was, it was beautiful. The arrangement.
That's Emily Meads, who's 20 years old, and the vocal
fabulous
performance on that is unbelievable.
So it really is a lovely album, and I think it would genuinely, anyone of any age would put it on and enjoy it, because it's a nice mix of types of music and then just some real quality singing and music on it. So out Friday for anyone that wants to get it.
Out this Friday, it'll be available on Spotify. It'll be available to stream. But if you want a physical copy of it, contact me is the best thing. But otherwise, if you're in town browsing, it'll be in the record room. It'll be in Lieber, and it'll be available at the gigs in the Hawkswell in a couple of weeks. Which
Don't worry, we'll come back to them at the very end. Now we won't make sure everyone doesn't forget anything. So 2 other little projects, and I don't want to keep you too long. So you started a blog. Why? Or where did that come from?
I guess, Brendan, I've always had a thing about writing, and I've never really fancied myself as a writer. A writer of words.
Yep.
I just thought, how are you going to get better at writing? If it's something you want to get better at, well, why don't you try writing every day? Yeah. And what's more, publishing it every day, because it puts you on the hook a bit more.
Yeah, true.
Whereas if you just write for yourself, the same pressure isn't on you to try and make it good.
Yeah.
And so I just said, right, let's try this, and let's try writing something that maybe might mean something to somebody and publish it every day. And I did that for nearly 3 years. And
it really is. Like, it's some great little tidbits, or even like, this song I would listen to, check it out. So it's really good. But I love some of that. As you said, it's short a lot of the time, so it's just in and out.
Yeah.
And I sign up myself, I get the emails, and there's loads of great little pieces in it, or some kind of wisdom you've read about and that. So, but do you find it therapeutic? Putting it out there, and the little bit of pressure will make this good. So you enjoy that.
Yeah, no, I do, and it's great for me. You kindly put me in touch with the Sligo Weekender, Brendan, a couple of years ago, and I write a column for a newspaper now, which is an amazing thing to do that I never would have thought of.
But it is unique. That's when I said it to them at the time. I said, this is a nice, unique piece of writing in town every week, and I'd say a lot of people read it. And I'm sure you've got many replies to many things over the years. As someone saying resonates with me.
Exactly, and not everyone will resonate with everybody. Yeah, but if one resonates with one person and they tell you, it's lovely to hear the feedback, and you hear lovely stories from people about why it resonated, and some sad stories from people. People are great at replying and interacting with it, which makes it easier to keep doing it.
And then, so you blog and said, right, I haven't done a podcast, so you decided to start a podcast.
Yes.
So you're loving that? You seem to have great fun. You've a bit of a dream team again, from you've Luke with all the sound and audio and music, and obviously your own music and profile, but then Rory on camera as well. So it's a real dream team. Yeah. But you seem to have great fun.
Yeah, we do.
Three mates have a bit of crack, but yet it's really professionally done.
And we've recently added another member, Micheál Carney, as well, who's working in radio. So it's great experience from that side of things. But it started with myself, Luke and Rory, and we worked closely together on the virtual theme nights, Brendan, which took place early in lockdown when online stuff was still happening and people still wanted to watch it. And we produced 2 virtual theme nights in 2020. And we worked closely together on those, and we got on well, worked together well. And I just thought, I want to keep working with these lads. What could we do together? And so the idea of a podcast came. I approached them and they said, yeah, let's try it. And we're still going a year or so later.
And who's been your favourite guest? Was there someone you got on and was like, oh great, I'm getting them on? Again, don't worry, you're not going to isolate
I guess because it's recent, Brendan. We'd Cian Egan on recently, and you know, I wouldn't have known Cian really growing up. We're similar age, but wouldn't have known him well. And there was a degree of, this guy from Westlife's coming in to chat to us, you know. There was a bit of that and a bit of nerves. But Cian, I just got the impression immediately that he wanted to tell his story, especially his Sligo story. Okay. Do you know? And we got into the early days of the band, and we got into, you know, why he's back in Sligo and why he's living here now and what drew him back to the place. And he was just so honest and so engaging. I really, really enjoyed that chat. Do you know? And I mean, it's like what we're doing here. You have chats with people when you're presenting something or when you're recording something that you mightn't necessarily have with them in real life.
Absolutely. This show has been nothing but that. People I would never really sit and chat for 20 minutes or half an hour. You know
exactly.
So it's a lovely memory.
So exactly, to have done that with Cian, and he's a lovely, nice, grounded fella, do you know, who just happens to be in a massive band and be very good at what he does. But is it, we had a lovely chat.
Have you a dream guest, dead or alive? You know, biggest star you can get. Who would you love to have on?
God, I would love to have. I'd love to talk to Adele actually. She's huge in the news at the minute. I admire her music. Just that someone is out there doing real music. Yes. Do you know, writing real songs? It's piano based. I love that. But you know, I don't like every song she writes. But there's something real about her, which is not always there.
With some of the megastars.
With some of the megastars.
She's great fun if you ever see her in interviews. She's a messer, like.
Yeah, she's a messer, exactly.
So that would add
look, she's in the news the minute, just came to mind. I'm sure there's loads of others. But,
no, I know.
But she would be, I'm sure she'd be good crack if we got her out to the studio in Grange.
So, I mean, before we let you go, like with disregarding COVID and all the musical chaos that's causing, where do you see the original scene in Sligo kind of going, like post-COVID? Because I mean, when I years ago was in the music venue of Fifth and Teelan, there was loads of original acts, proper bands. I mean, you're probably a great man to know with the team nights. Is there little bands forming? Is there little solo artists coming through? You know, what are you seeing there? I am, Brendan, with sort of people in their early 20s. Do you know, people who've maybe been in the teenage team nights 2, 3, 4 years ago, and there's a huge Sligo gang in Dublin. In BIM, studying music in BIM, and there's loads of great music being written by these people and performed, and I see them on Instagram performing and writing their tunes, and so, you know, I have a feeling that's going to come back to this part of the world soon. You know, because there probably is a bit of a lack of it at the moment, in Sligo in terms of original music. I've loads of plans about original music showcases, you know, now that you bring it up, and how to promote that a little bit more around the place. And hopefully we'll get to do that in 2022. But there is loads of young musicians, and young musicians especially love to write music. You know, as you get a bit older, it's not as necessarily as big a thing, because I guess other pressures take over, and you know, it's not something you get to do, or I don't think the drive to do it is as strong when you get older. But certainly for young people in their teens and 20s, you know, they should be writing as much music as they can, and I see loads of them doing it. So I'm sure there's a good. I'd love to see it more in schools, and that go and look at, have an hour each week where write a poem, write a song, write a story, like, because that just brings it out. And if someone goes, oh, I can do that, it's like, well, of course you can. Like, everyone has a song in them, I always say, a poem, like, but just give them that outlet. Now, last question.
Yes.
If I gave you €1 million and you had to spend it on something in Sligo, what would you do with it?
I'd buy that crane and hoist that grand piano onto the rocky place outside Ulster.
You'd build a permanent stage in the middle of the river.
Yeah. Oh God. I mean, I look, and Music Generation are doing great work. I always think give every child access to a musical instrument, you know, and proper tuition. And as I say, Music Generation are doing great work in Sligo that way. But there's so many children who, if exposed to this, would just get so much from it. It's so good for children, so good for teenagers. And if I had £1 million, I would just buy a load of instruments, pay a load of teachers, and just you know, create some sort of program that's going to engage children, keep them at it, and give them the opportunity to do this. And
I often said this, but the council or whoever or some agency just to fund it. And like Sligo has all the ingredients. Like there's the likes of yourself, there's the likes of Niamh Crowley with the youth orchestra, there's like Kieran Gordon and the actor. There's tons of people there. It's just like give these people funding to subsidise it for people that maybe can't. Like Kieran Gordon told us a great story how when she was young she didn't have any speech and drama like that really, like they wouldn't have afforded, like, but yet there's another Kieran Gordon out there, there's another Kieran Quinn or Niamh Crowley, so I think it'd be great to see that funded. So lastly, make sure everyone knows now, so album's out Friday. You can get it physically in the shops or online. Is it kieranquinn.ie?
Correct, Brendan, yeah.
Okay, and then the shows are on what date?
Shows are going to be massive, Brendan. I can't wait for these shows. We are performing a load of tracks from the album, and we are performing a load of Christmas songs, because it's that time of year. I spoke earlier about that Elvis theme night at Christmas, and I just sense there's going to be just such a lovely feeling about these shows, 16th to the 19th of December in the Hawkswell. 4 nights.
Is there still a couple of tickets probably?
There are actually, Brendan. No, just given the current climate, I think people aren't a little bit more hesitant. But I think if numbers go down a bit closer to Christmas, get the Christmas spirit. We're going to do these so safely. We've employed somebody specifically to assess the COVID risk and take measures that risk is going to be minimised. So we're going to do it right, but there's going to be, and we want to do it right so that people are comfortable performing and comfortable watching it. So they're going to be great. Hawkswell Theatre.
Well, I'm going myself, and I can't wait, because as you said, it'll be a lovely lift after everyone been through, and it's going to be a great night. So for all other things, whether there's piano lessons, the podcast, the blog, kieranquinn.ie.
That'll send you
everything on there. You'll find everything there. Kieran, I've been looking forward to having you since the first series. We made a rule we wouldn't have the obvious popular guests in the first series. We'd kind of bring in some people that not everyone would know. Everyone knows you in Sligo, so that's why I said, no, we'll hold him. So I've been waiting for a long time to have a proper chat. And like you with Cian Egan, it's nice to chat about stuff you wouldn't normally chat when you meet. Look at fair play and all the stuff you're doing. You're doing a lot of good work for a lot of people of all ages, and you're bringing a lot of joy and happiness to Sligo. So keep it going, and we'll see you on the 15th. I'll be in the Hawkswell to see you.
Great stuff, Brendan. Thanks for having me.
Not at all. So a huge thanks to Kieran there. And now we're going to have our regular news, sport and entertainment news.
Hi, my name is Daniel, and here are the news stories from around Sligo this week. Hilary Dolan from the Mill Pharmacy in Tierney has been named as the People's Pharmacist of the Year for 2021 following a nationwide voting campaign. The new technological university, which will encompass IT Sligo and St Angela's College, will be known as the Atlantic Technological University. The university will be formally established on April 1st, 2022. Tubbercurry native Aiming Murphy will represent Technological University Dublin in an international hospitality management competition, the EN Cup in the Netherlands, next Friday. €436,000 has been allocated to County Sligo for their outdoor activity projects. The funding is for projects at Hazelwood, Muckhelty Hill and the Ballygolly Lakeshore Loop. Sligo Circuit Court welcomed 2 newly qualified local barristers this week. Owen McGovern and Eugene Deering were formally introduced to Judge Francis Comerford by Mr. Keith O'Grady last Friday. That's all from me, back to the studio.
This week on the Sligo Show, your sports segment is brought to you by me, Alana Canaan. Sligo LGFA now have 2 teams in the Connacht final after the weekend, where Eastern Harps tossed St Patrick's of Dromahair to the side 5-12 to 4-7 in the junior semi-final, and Torlestrane emerged triumphant over Tim Courtoon in the intermediate decider on a scoreline of 110 to 1-7. Meanwhile, in the men's championship, St Patrick's GA have also progressed to the final stage after they defeated St Joseph's in Markievicz Park 4-17 to 3 points, while Torlestrane are back in action this Sunday for the senior men's Connacht semi, where they are to clash with Knockmore. Last Thursday, Sligo All-Stars put 72 points past the Carrick Cougars at home during their victory, and while they play Athlone away this evening, all eyes are on their Saturday night's President's Cup quarter-final, where they are to take on Limerick Celtics in the Murphy Gym at 7:30, with tickets still on sale for that one. Finally, Sligo Rugby men's side racked up a 20-16 point win over Belfast Harlequins recently, while their women's coach took all the spoils in Ballina in the Connacht Women's League, as the home outfit failed to field, but a challenge match still took place regardless. That's it for this week's sports wrap up from me, Alana Canaan. You can find more from me over on hersport.ie, The Final Whistle, and also your local media outlets.
everyone, happy Tuesday. This is Kieran Quinn here with your entertainment update. If you want to get your dancing shoes on but nightclubs are not your scene, then there is social dancing in the Southern Hotel this Wednesday evening from 8 to 11:30pm. Waterloo, the Abbott Tribute Band, continue their tour of Ireland with a performance in the Coach House Hotel on Friday the 3rd of December at 9pm. Also taking place on Friday the 3rd of December, we have Bird on a Wire, the songs of Leonard Cohen, taking place in the Hawkswell Theatre at 8pm. And in honour of tonight's guest, Kieran Quinn, tickets for his theme night, How Can I Stop Myself From Singing, are currently available from the Hawkswell Theatre, running from Thursday the 16th to Sunday the 19th of December. As always, there is a huge amount of live music happening in Sligo, so for the most up-to-date schedule, check johnthemap.co.uk for all the events happening in town this weekend. That's all from me for this week. Take it easy and we'll see you next week. Bye.
So thanks as always to our great team there with the news, sport and entertainment, and the best up to Karen, whose show The Producers is on next April, and the tickets are on sale this week, so keep an eye out for them. They're going to sell out. So our local focus this week, we have local photographer Richard McCarthy. You're very welcome to the show, and thanks for coming in.
No problem at all.
Well, so for anyone that doesn't know you, tell us a bit more about yourself and the business.
Well, I'm a wedding, portrait and commercial photographer, so I do kind of a bit of everything. I've also done event photography in the past, but it's kind of a case of whatever people need me for is what I do. But primarily my work is weddings. 75% of my work will be weddings, about 25% commercial and a little bit of portraits as well.
And out of those three, the weddings, portraits and commercial, like what is your favourite creatively? Because photographers by the nature are creative people. You know, what's one do you enjoy creatively, and which is the most challenging?
Okay, well, creatively I suppose weddings, I love weddings because every wedding is different and you get to do a little bit of creativity. We'll say we call it the creative part, like for that reason, where we get to do kind of fun stuff. But I say commercial wise, you get to have a bit more fun as well, and they're always looking for something that makes the photo different. So like next week I'm photographing Puppy of the Year for Petmania. So we're going photographing this rescue dog in Strandhill on the beach in the water and stuff. So that's going to be
bit of fun then.
Bit of fun.
Like an unusual day at work, like, you know. So that's good.
Exactly. So it's always, every day is different, you know. So it makes it
that's good. And which one would you find most challenging and the most pressure? I'm not saying that it's horrible, but just, you know.
Weddings would be the most pressure.
I imagine so.
But it's something that you get used to, and you kind of do enough preparation beforehand to make sure that you don't have any surprises.
Yes, and like a typical wedding, I mean, people only see you here and there during the day, but what kind of time does it take between all that day, before the mass and the reception, most people see you, but all that day, and then even the edits? Like, what kind of time are you talking to put in?
Well, on the day you're talking about 14 hours. So you're normally there from 9 in the morning till about 10 or 11 at night. Wow. So you're from the groom prep right up to the first dance. And that's just taking the photographs. And then afterwards, you might have taken about 3,000 photographs in the day, and you have to go treat all of those and reduce it down.
I couldn't do that 3,000. I go mental.
Well, you see, you're shooting in triplicate all the time. So literally, the idea literally is everybody blinks within 3 photos. So if you shoot 3 at a time, you're not having to constantly check the camera to make sure the eyes are open and stuff like that. So it really narrows it down to 500 or 600. But you do have to go through them and just go, okay, that's the one. And the great thing now is there's a lot of programs now that there's AI programs that will actually go through the photographs and they'll check for eyes and stuff. Wow. So it helps you in that way as well. So it takes a bit of time, all right. The editing side of it afterwards, you're talking maybe 2 or 3 days, and then getting the photos out, and then you've got the wedding albums and the thank you cards and the wall art. So on average, it takes about a week per wedding.
Okay, so well, all the pay is well deserved. So on a wedding day itself, like, what's the one shot you would see? So I'm sure you come across some couples that go, I don't want that, I don't want this. Would you go, look, trust me, this is the one shot you want to get? Is there one magic shot you always say, make sure you get this one?
There probably is. There's a few, to be honest with you, but the most important ones is the family shots. I think we're always telling couples, like, you know, it's something that you look back on in 10 years, 20 years, and it's some of the shots I call them the granny shots. It's the ones that granny wants, you know. So it's for the two of them looking at the camera and stuff like that. But the family shots would be one of the ones I always say, look, make the time for the family ones. They're the ones,
and get them all in.
And get them all in, exactly. And try and kind of make sure everybody's kind of, you know, covered, you know.
We have one shot at our own wedding, and it's nearly everyone from a balcony at the hotel. It's
like
the one shot everyone keeps talking about when you come in the house. Like, so it is. I would definitely recommend, as you said, the family one. And like, they might not always be there forever, so it's the nice moment in time.
Like,
you know?
I was at a conference 2 years ago, and there was a photographer talking about he'd gone back and he'd asked all his brides from about 5 years ago what was their favourite photograph from the wedding, and he was surprised that 90% of them came back with the photograph of their aunt or a photograph of granny that had passed away, or it wasn't the one that he put up on Instagram or Facebook or anything like that. It was the ones that were natural and just caught the moment right, you know, the emotional photograph.
I think the natural ones often are, they're just much nicer, like, you know, but that's where the camera or the photographer is on the ball there. That's where you're earning your bucks there, like finding that right one. Have you had any nightmare stories or funny moments over the years?
I haven't had any nightmares, thank
yes.
God. I kind of always wake up, and Brian probably is the same, you know, you wake up on a Saturday, if you don't have a wedding on a Saturday, and you wake up and you kind of go, do I have a wedding today? And you kind of start panic. And you've got that 30 seconds of panic and you're like, okay, no, I don't. We've had funny stories, like we'll say. We've had scenarios where, especially in church violin weddings, they tend to have on the altar, there's like a grate at the top of the altar. Okay. So when they're doing the rings, you're trying to make sure they don't drop the rings into the grate. Oh. So we've had one or two weddings where, you know, the groom is nervous and all of a sudden the ring goes down through the grates. So I've had one.
And is it easy to retrieve? Like, is there?
Yeah, you have to lift up the grate.
Okay, not too bad.
You can get them up, but it's a funny moment.
Well, no one will ever let him forget that. No doubt.
Yes,
Anyways,
exactly,
that's for sure. Like with the world of Instagram nowadays, like everyone's a photographer now, so you know you're doing well to be in a job at all, obviously. But like, do you get more peculiar requests nowadays, or do you get people telling you how to take the photos sometimes?
Well, you'll always have people telling you how to take photos, and again, it's their day as well, so I don't mind that, you know. It's quite funny. We have this kind of running bet with photographers. Like, there's always somebody with an iPad, and it's generally the older generation of the iPad. Yeah. And I remember doing a wedding, and it was a long aisle. And I'd gotten all the photographs of the bride and groom coming down the aisle, and there was these two old ladies at the back of the church, and they had snuck out into the aisle to take the photograph. And the lady on the outside had gotten the photograph, and the other lady was still trying to get it with her iPad. So the other lady was like, "Coming, they're coming," and she just shoved them in out of the way. And it was just so funny that the videographer was there and myself laughing over this. But it's moments like that kind of, you know, we always think they makes great shots as well. I suppose the funniest kind of scenario would be, with Instagram, it's more a case of explaining, we'll say, like, so if you want to do a photograph on a sunny beach with the sun and the whole lot and everything, but your wedding is in the middle of winter, you know, some things are just not realistic. Yeah. And, you know, when you explain that to couples, they understand. But you try anything I've been asked to do, I always say, no problem, let's do it. I had a great wedding this year, right in the middle of COVID. There was a couple that got married, and the bride had requested a photograph of her riding her horse across the beach in Strida. Wow. And it was this beautiful photograph, and there was literally the water on the ground, and you had the mirror reflection in the water as she was going up and down the beach on the horse in her wedding dress.
I want to see that photo now. Like, is that anywhere public? No.
I think Brian has it there, but I don't know if he got it up. But
okay, well, we'll share it during the week.
It's something we will. Yeah, we'll have to share.
That sounds amazing, and cool. Brave on her taking that gamble.
But like, if you want to do something like that in your day,
we'll do it.
No problem. You just.
Any tips for a great smile in a picture? Because you have to make a lot of people smile, and not all of them want to.
I always tell people, don't think about smiling. So the hardest thing is when you tell somebody to smile, they'll do what we call a Chandler smile, where they overdo the smile. Yes. So I'm always kind of, the best tip I ever got was to, if somebody's quite nervous about the smile, get them to close their eyes and think of something funny they did that week. You know, make something that made them laugh. And then just open your eyes and smile. And it creates this kind of a natural smile. For the guys, there's always a great tip I heard where if you keep saying yes, it kind of keeps the smile going. So you're going yes. So a lot of times I hear a lot of we have I think it's up on the screens there for the viewers. What a shot. So it was a beautiful,
oh my God,
the day and everything as well, so it was fantastic.
So for anyone watching, we're seeing it on our own monitor, so I hope you're seeing it at home. I think you are. That is one of the best photos I've ever seen. Wow, that is class. And as I said, fair play to the bride. That was brave effort, but what, well worth it. Oh my God.
Absolutely. So yeah, I think the best thing about, we'll say, if you are kind of worried about your smile and stuff like that, say to your photographer, and like, you know, he'll give you tips and stuff like that and all that. And you know, everybody has a natural smile, I always say. You know, so it mightn't be the perfect smile, but it's their smile.
So obviously, no more than everyone, you've been living through COVID, and weddings have been on and off and on and off, but they're shorter now. So do you have any tips for someone, like, you know, look, you haven't had loads of weddings, I've been at loads of weddings. Have you little tips for them to go make sure your day runs smoothly, even though they want to get the photos and they want to get X, Y, and Z fitted in?
I suppose the best thing is to start with a timeline for the day. So sit down with your photographer, work out the times of the day to make sure that everything you want to do is covered. I try and kind of have a safety net. We'll say I have kind of this a rule or kind of a theory that will say, if your wedding is at 12:30, you should be ready to go at 12 o'clock. So literally the photos are done and the whole lot. So you've got a half hour to relax and enjoy of that time. Because the girls especially, they're up from 6 o'clock in the morning, getting their hair and makeup done. and it's rush and the whole lot. So it's lovely for them to get that half hour to just relax and have some champagne and just take it all in. A lot of couples are bringing their time to call for the meal a little bit earlier, so they're sitting down for the meal about a half hour earlier. And the reason for that, so the band, Brian won't like this, but the band set up a little bit early.
Them cursed bands.
I know. So it's good in that way. And like we said, a wedding in the Radisson last week, and it was fantastic because everything ran like clockwork, and they had the meal over by, I think it was about 7:30, and the band were setting up, and the first dance by 8:30.
Oh, lovely.
So they had a good 2 hours of dancing beforehand. So,
but a bit of planning, and like I said, whether it's yourself, the wedding coordinator, there's loads of people that have gone to more weddings than the couple.
Exactly.
Ask their advice of what's the pitfalls like, you know. And like I recently read somewhere that there was a photographer blogging saying how they were very confident they could tell after shooting at a wedding whether that couple are going to last or not. Have you seen? Could you say you'd have a good guess as well now? Would you?
I have my theories, but I find that there's always every wedding that I've done, I've seen moments of kind of raw kind of emotion or romance, kind of going, okay, they'll be fine, you know.
Yes.
They mightn't show it all the time, so there is a lot of couples that don't display public displays of affection. They're not big into kissing, stuff like that. But you find those times you're with them all day, and there's times where, you know, when they have a bit of privacy, they become themselves, become friends again, and relax,
that's when you see the real gems.
Yes,
then.
exactly.
Okay,
you know.
there you go. So finally, before we let you go, tell people where again they can find you. What's the website or social media or whatever?
Everything's on richardmccarthy.ie. I think on social media is Richard McCarthy Photography or RMC Photography. I think it all kind of comes under that. So.
Well, listen, thank you for coming in.
You're
Thanks
welcome,
for hanging around. I know we kept you a bit later than we planned, and we will be sharing that photo on its own in the social media the next coming days. Like, that's fabulous. So, Richard, best of luck with the rest of the COVID weddings, and hopefully there won't be too many more of them. That'll be back to normal again very soon.
Thanks, Brendan.
Well, thanks again to Richard and to Kieran Quinn earlier on, all our team on the news and sport, the crew here, Brian and cameras, and Finian on production assisted over there. We're going to play out now with a song from the upcoming Kieran Quinn album, which is out on Friday. And this is Joanne Stenson, and there's a lovely story behind this if you look it up. I think it was Joanne's one of her first performances, if I'm not mistaken. And she is singing, and I have to read this out because it's quite a long song. There's a guy works down the chip shop, swears he's Elvis. We'll see you next Tuesday. Thanks for tuning in. Good night. So if you liked what you just seen, don't forget to like and subscribe on our YouTube channel here. We've loads of great interviews from a load of really interesting people over the series. And if you're on social media, which I'm sure loads of you are, we are on